Really did play with my TV yesterday to like see if, but it's way too big. Like it's
Gigantic.
the one I have that I'm gonna replace. One I have is 50 inches, and like so to do a frame with it's like me talking, like hey, here's my notes. It's like no, here's my notes. Like so I'm like
This?
oh sure.
Yeah.
Hello.
Get that down there.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, all right, ready for sermon time? All right. My audio is, hey, can I, like, I can move right here. Like, this is good. Everywhere I'm at is good. I'll grab the Bible. Talk to, no. I do not need that. I do want to, yeah, because Jamie's going to call me right now, yeah. Hey, Go Church. A lot is going on, but I have something very important to tell you. You need to check your Facebook feed. Tori posted a comical challenge on Friday, so go search her name and look for the How to Make a Potato Look Like a Movie Character challenge. And then do your best to make a character, and that'll fill 5 minutes for some of you, 35 minutes of your time making something funny, because Lord knows we could all use a little bit of potato humor in our life during this crazy time. And I did something on there, and I think it's awesome, so you need to do it too. That's it. All right, roll, service, cut. Morning, Go Church. Good to be with you. This is a little bit different for you guys and for me, but doesn't change the fact that the church can still be the church regardless of if we have a building, a park, or a camera. We're going to continue to worship together. So this is going to be a great opportunity. I'm glad you guys are around for this. One of the things I want to challenge you with before we even jump into the message is that as we can't be around our friends the way we want to, and we kind of have the social distancing stuff that's driving me crazy, probably you too a little bit, one of the ways you can be helpful is to share this content. I don't know how often you share our social media content, but I really want to encourage you to do that this time. Not because I care how many views our video gets, but because this might be one of the best ways for you to bring hope and joy into your friends and your family's life. Because I think these words from the Bible are going to be really helpful to a lot of people. And so consider that. Consider sharing what we do and considering how you can play a role in how this works together. Because of the chapter that we're in, because of the times, I've kind of shifted some of my normal preaching calendar to talk about something kind of relevant for our current circumstance. And so this is just kind of me being raw and sharing from my heart what I think we need to hear today. And so I just hope this is helpful to you. One of the things I realized as I've been praying about this and studying and thinking through what we need to hear is we kind of were in the middle of a series called Not Today, Satan. And man, that is such a powerful thing that I want to encourage you with, that the enemy isn't taking a break in the middle of this. In fact, he might be looking for opportunities to make life more difficult for you. And so today, if we do anything, man, I want you to consider how you can challenge yourself to say, you know what? You might have had other days, Satan, but not this day, not today. At some point, you got to say enough is enough. And if he's attacking you and you find great anxiety and stress and difficulty in this moment, then maybe you're right where you're supposed to be, because he's had enough victory and I'm tired of it. And I think there's some wisdom and some truth and some true victory that we know comes from the Lord that I want to encourage you with today. Because I think he wants you to be panicking. I think he wants you to be overwhelmed by fear. I heard a story recently that there was someone shopping at the grocery store, and as they were walking through the aisle, they sneezed. Crazy. And when they sneezed, everyone stopped and yelled at this person to leave the store. There is a lot of panic going on right now. And people are looking for strength, for courage, for faith, and for wisdom. And I think the church can be that. You have a huge opportunity today. And so today I want to give you some encouragement from the Word, and I want to give you some instruction, some challenge, some things to do with your time. So the encouragement comes from the reality that we live in and what Jesus does because of that. The reality that you and I live in is that, believe it or not, suffering and pain, trials, tribulations, sickness, this has all been around for quite a while. This pandemic that has everyone scared to death, this isn't the first time things have come into our lives and threatened us and scared us and made things difficult. We live in a world full of difficult times, and difficult things happen all the time to people, regardless of their circumstances. And the question really is, what do we do about it? Because we know that difficult times come. We know that suffering comes, trials come, pain comes. Even though we try to avoid it, it still happens. And in fact, even after this is all said and done, there will be other trials and suffering and pains that come into your life. And so the question becomes, what do you do about that? How does that work for you? I've noticed a lot of people, I don't think they really have a good answer for suffering in their life. They just want to get away from it and do their best to stay clear of whatever that is. But I believe that there's a lesson in the middle of this storm for you and for me. I believe there's an opportunity here for us to discover something about ourselves. And so that question, how do you deal with suffering, is very important to me, because I believe that Christianity, I believe that your relationship with Jesus gives you a way that no one else knows, that no one else maybe sees. And that can be so powerful to your testimony, to your friends, to your neighbors, to your family. Because other people might deal with it in different ways, but because of Jesus, you can deal with suffering, you can deal with trials and this current situation in a very different way than other people. So with that being said, I want to read you a story and challenge you a little bit with what Jesus does, and hopefully encourage you, because you're probably stressed out too, and you probably have some things that are just hurting you. And I want these words to encourage you and to give you some insight on what comes next for us. And so I'm going to read to you out of John chapter 2. This is a pretty cool story. John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. So listen in here on this. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Which I'll just stop right there. That's kind of a big deal. Weddings in this context were a much bigger deal than they are now. When families would join together, sometimes this was a political power kind of moment. And so the whole village, the whole town would come be a part of it. And this was a big moment for everybody, and especially for the groom and for the bride. And so this is a big party. Sometimes this would last up to a week, sometimes longer of celebration. And that was a lot of fun for a lot of different people. And so when wine was gone, that was usually the end of a party. Like, that was devastating news if in the middle of a party that was going to happen. And so there's this catastrophe on a different scale, of course, but there's a problem here. And so Jesus' mom sees that and challenges him about it. And they have this conversation. Jump back in verse 4. "Dear woman," he says, "why do you involve me?" And Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind that was used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," so they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now drain some of them and take it to the master of the banquet." So they did, and the master of the banquet tasted the water, and it had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servant who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone bring out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have all had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." Verse 11, "This, the first of his miraculous signs, Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him." John chapter 2, this is the first miracle of Jesus' ministry. This is the first time he's going to kind of publicly reveal himself in a different way. Of all the ways to do it, of all the times, why would it be at a wedding feast, and why would it be turning water into wine? And we could have brought someone back from the dead, or saw that there was a demon to be exorcised, or to do something kind of maybe a bigger demonstration, but he reveals himself in this miracle at a wedding feast. And as if you know me, I do not have the whole counsel of God's word figured out. And so I'm still learning about this stuff. And what I can understand from this text is pretty powerful to me, pretty revealing to me. One of the things I can see that Jesus would choose to act in this moment was because for, again, this wedding, when the devastating moment came that there would no longer be any wine, Jesus decided to act. And again, I don't know all the reasons why he would, but I do know that he cares about our joy. He cares about our laughter. And he wanted to start to reveal himself at this time. Man, if there is anybody that knows how to turn lemons into lemonade, it would be our Lord and Savior. One of the things I can take away from this truth, this miracle that he performed, is that when he saw the emptiness of the people and literally of their glasses, he wanted to be part of the solution. He wanted to fill where there was emptiness. In the middle of their disaster, in the middle of this moment where there was a crisis, he wanted to act. Now, the powerful part to me is as I look a little bit further and study even more, I discover that when Jesus saw other people taking a drink, filling their stomach and enjoying the party, he says in the text that he knows his hour is coming. They were drinking, and he might have been as well, but of a very different cup. They were tasting the joy and the wine and the good of the party, but he was tasting a bitterness because he knew his death was coming. That as his ministry was going to start, he knew it would have to end as well. And so for them to enjoy life and fullness and hope, he would have to drink a different cup, and he would have to drink of his death so that they would know life. And we see that all throughout all of his ministry, all of the gospel, that Jesus takes from us our brokenness, our sin, our ugly, our all things bad, and fills it with all things good. And so all the emptiness in them, in those cups, in you, in this moment, all the emptiness that you feel, he fills that up. And that's important to him because he loves you in a way that goes beyond what I can explain or understand. One of the other things I kind of love about this story, and this is kind of me seeing some truths in this, is that weddings are a lot of fun for anybody, I think. And for me, when I go to a wedding, a lot of people do this. I like to look and see what the groom is doing the moment that the bride is getting ready to walk down the aisle. Of course, the groomsmen come around, and so he's got a big smile on his face. His guys are with him, and there's a confidence there. Sees the bridesmaid, these friends, and he's got a smile on his face. But that moment when the bride shows up, everyone wants to turn and look at her. But man, I like to look back and look at the groom. Everyone's a little bit different, but a lot of guys like me, in that moment when I saw my wife, when I saw Jamie the first time, I just lost it. Ugly face cried and could not compose myself. And for me, there's a couple different reasons why I didn't feel even worthy to be in that moment, but I was so taken back by her beauty. I had seen her hundreds of times, but this time was different, and I couldn't control myself. Now, here's the deal. In that moment, any of her flaws, any of the things that were wrong with Jamie, I could have been as far as the east is from the west. I couldn't see a bit of that. I only saw a beautiful person that was there for me and that we were going to do something together. I think I can see Jesus in that as actually the whole New Testament goes on to explain that Jesus and the church is like a groom and a bride, that he's the husband and we're the wife, and that the bride of Christ, the church, is the bride, and so Jesus is the groom. And so we have this powerful relationship. In fact, so much so to where husbands are challenged to love their wives like Christ loves the church. And so this is a powerful part of the way Jesus loves us. But I think about that moment at a wedding and how a groom is overwhelmed by the beauty of his bride. And I just want you to know right now that no matter what in your life is broken, or you think is unworthy, or keeps you from seeing any beauty, know that Jesus is madly in love with you. I think if he saw you coming down the aisle, he would burst into tears as well, because he doesn't see your flaws. He doesn't see the brokenness in you. He is madly in love with you, and goes to great lengths to prove it and to show it in your life. And so this first miracle at this wedding party is a long list of miracles that kind of show his power, but more so to show his great love for you and what he would ultimately do for you. And so that kind of opens up this idea that because Jesus was willing to take our brokenness and take our emptiness and fill it with who he is, he was willing to take our sin and forgive us and give us new life. Jesus shows us a different way to live life. And so in the middle of your crisis, in the middle of this coronavirus and all the difficulty this is causing our lives, he shows us how to manage this really, really well. In fact, there's maybe no other worldview or religion that is going to be better for you to cope with this difficult time than a relationship with Jesus. And for a couple different powerful reasons, and a couple which I want to make clear to you, is one of the reasons why this is easier for me as a Christian to go through this difficult time is because Jesus also knows what a difficult time looks like. In fact, the worst suffering that I might ever occur from this crisis, from this trial, is nothing compared to what he went through. I might be overwhelmed by unjust suffering, but he knows unjust suffering. And there's an intimacy I can have with him because he knows what you're going through. He knows what I'm going through. And so I can confess those things to him. I can tell him that I'm upset. I can weep. I can be overwhelmed by this. And he can take my burden. He can take my emptiness and my brokenness, and he can fill me up. And so I want to encourage you with that you can cast your burden on him. He's been there. He understands what it is that we're going through in ways that I can't even comprehend. He knows what you need. And so he shows us a way to deal with suffering, because in the middle of it for him, he had composure. He kept his integrity to do the things he needed to do because he knew there was more to the story. And so I want to challenge you in the middle of your suffering, in the middle of your challenge, keep your integrity, keep your heart, because you know there is more to the story. That's one of the other things about Christianity, about Jesus, that makes this difficult time much easier to deal with, is that this story doesn't end for you in this moment. In a very real way, before too long, this will all get fixed and you're going to go back to normal life, and there will be lessons to be learned here, or we'll just breeze past it. Or let's just be really honest. For some people, they will pass away. And that's everyone's greatest fear, I think, in this moment, is loss of life. But for Jesus, that's not an issue because you get more. Your story isn't over when you die. You need to remember how powerful that truth is in this moment. Because the greatest love, the greatest joy you have in your life right now will only be even more so when you're with him in paradise. You will have great love for all of eternity. And that hope, that joy, that is no more relevant now than it has ever been. And I just want to encourage you that the life he gives you, that truly matters. The relationship he has with you, his willingness to fill all of your emptiness. You need to hold on to that in this special time. And so the power of the gospel, the message of who Jesus is so important for you to understand in this moment. And it really does give you the best ability to cope with difficulty, your relationship with him. And I want you to know that it matters to other people. It will have an impact on the way they live their life. I want you to know that for me, when I was in high school and I first met Christians, I was blown away by their resolve, by their peace. For me, I was unhappy. I had stuff, but I wanted more stuff. I had material possessions, but I wanted more of them. And I just never really found myself happy. And then I met these Christians, and they had much less material stuff, and yet they had a joy, an unbreakable joy, an unceasing happiness that I wanted in my life. And because I saw that resolve in them, I saw that ability to not be afraid, I wanted that too, and that drew me to who they are. In this moment, there are a lot of people that don't have a good answer to the question, how do you deal with suffering? You have great hope in the Lord. You have great joy because of what he's done for you. That matters a lot to people right now, because a lot of people are going to watch what you do in the middle of this and how you respond to this crisis. May you be overwhelmed with hope because you know who holds tomorrow. May you be overcome with joy because you know in him, he satisfies all your cravings, your heart, your brokenness. You are made whole in his greatness and his love for you. And you need to hold on tight to that because it will matter all the more as the days go by. I want to challenge you with this text too. I hope that what Jesus does to fill you up encourages you, and you hold on tight to who he is and the promises he's made to you. But I want to give you some instructions about what to do with the rest of your day into the week. Remember, we're going to have more devos and more content for you as we walk through this storm together. But I want to leave you with this challenge, this instruction. This comes from 1 Thessalonians 5, 16 through 18. Rejoice always, pray continually, and in all circumstances give thanks. Preached about that before. It's just not the same when things are good, right? So what does today mean for you to rejoice always? What does it mean to pray continually right now for you? And in all circumstances, give thanks. I want to challenge where you can rejoice always. Maybe one of the things you can do right now, if it isn't already happening to you, is rearrange your loves and your priorities. To rejoice always means that you are very aware of what is good in your life right now. And in an interesting turn of fate, if you've put all your joy in your material possessions, in your job, and your finances, and your security, and the different things you might have now been taken away from you. And what have you have now? You've got your family, and you've got time with them, and you've got some things that maybe are even more important. So maybe this is an opportunity for you to take a moment and say, what is most important in my life? Maybe you've been stressed out at work and overwhelmed by all the things you had to get done, and you just wish that you had some time to rest. This might be that time. Maybe you've put other things ahead of your family, and they don't really get to see you all that much. This might be your opportunity. Reprioritize what's most important, because in this time, as other unimportant things just seem to fade off, you will choose what's most important in your life. And so make priorities over those things and rejoice in the good that God's given you. And pray continually. And I just want you to think about your prayers can change the world. God has big plans for this moment. I don't completely know what they are, but I know that the more I pray and hear him and speak with him, they're going to come clearer to me. And I want to challenge you to spend some time on your knees praying for God's peace in your family and your friends in this nation. But in all circumstances, give thanks. That's a big one. And I want to leave you with what I want you to do with that concept. Verse 18 of 1 Thessalonians. I want you to take a moment and just maybe through prayer, maybe write it down. What are all the things that you have right now? In all your circumstances, give thanks. You have a lot of things maybe to not be happy about, but what things do you have to rejoice? What things do you have to be thankful for? Maybe take a moment, write down that you do have your health, and you have your family, and you have your home, and you have your finances, and you have, and after the 45 minutes it's going to take to write down all the things that you don't always say thank you for, then see what kind of perspective you have on the rest of your day. And all your circumstances, give thanks. Because that's God's will for your life, and he has a plan for you in the middle of this. So again, be encouraged by the fact that Jesus' first miracle was to fill that was empty, was to bring hope where people thought the party would end. He wanted to bring laughter into the life of people. He wanted to bring joy. And how much more does he have great love for you as we know more of his story? Hold on to your faith in him. Fix your eyes on Jesus. And if I would ask you to do something with your time, in all circumstances, give thanks. Write down what you're grateful for. Take a look at what's around you. Spend this time with your family. You might just be having an opportunity in disguise. Guys, I love you, and I know that God's got plans for this, and he's not done with us, and he's got more for us to do. Stay connected to this church family. Stay connected to your brothers and sisters in the Lord, because you might need it now more than ever. We love you guys. God bless you. Have a great week, and I will see you, I believe, tomorrow for Facebook Live. God bless. Peace out.